Um, Hello and welcome. It is really wonderful to have you joining us today for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Settle in, get comfortable. We really want to take our time with this material today.
We do. We're keeping things unhurried. Today we're looking at Algeria, but we're actually bypassing the standard geographical overviews you're probably already familiar with.
Right, because instead, we are examining a highly specific race happening right now. It's this massive cutting-edge push to translate thousands of years of tangible and intangible Algerian culture into binary code.
Which is fascinating. We're exploring a nation that's actively fighting to hold on to its ancient soul while, simultaneously carving out a sovereign space in the modern digital world.
It's a critical intersection, the ancient and the digital. And to break down exactly how this is happening, we've pulled together a really diverse stack of sources for you.
Yeah, let's look at the stack. We're analyzing on-the-ground reports from Travel Tramp, cultural insights from Mediterranean Living,
And we've drawn on musical histories from FolkCloud, modern entertainment breakdowns from the Russian travel platform tury.ru, and some broad cultural overviews from Guide Algeria and Wikipedia.
But anchoring our entire discussion, and this is the really heavy hitter, is some compelling academic research. Specifically, it's a paper from the International Journal of Early Childhood Special Education.
Which might sound like an unexpected source, but it actually details the mechanisms and the real urgency behind digitizing Algerian cultural heritage.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to synthesize that whole stack for you. We're going to take an immersive, relaxed journey through Africa's largest nation.
First, we'll examine the physical footprints left by centuries of empires.
Then we'll look at how that history pulses through the living crafts and the music of the people.
And finally, we will unpack the deliberate strategy behind Algeria's digital preservation efforts, how they are mapping this ancient identity onto the digital frontier.
So to understand the urgency of that digital preservation, you first really have to grasp the sheer density of the physical history involved.
Oh, absolutely. The travel guides highlight this fascinating reality about Algeria's ancient sites. They rival anything you will find elsewhere in the Mediterranean.
But they remain largely undisturbed by global tourism.
Right. You can walk through Timgad, for example, which is this massive UNESCO World Heritage Roman city, and you can experience the architecture in near total isolation.
That isolation is key. The ruins are just yours to interpret without the distraction of crowds.
Yeah, that isolation offers a very different relationship with history.
You're not just looking at a monument. You're standing in a landscape that has quietly absorbed multiple civilizations. Tapasa is a perfect example of this.
Oh, Tapasa is incredible. It sits right on the Mediterranean coast, just an hour's drive from Algiers.
And you have a site that began as a Phoenician trading post,
Right.
expanded into a thriving Roman colony, and eventually integrated early Christian and Byzantine cultures.
You can literally see an impressive amphitheater, Phoenician burial chambers, and one of North Africa's largest early Christian basilicas, all sharing the same coastal cliffside.
It's visually stunning. And it's easy to see why the Algerian-born writer Albert Camus was so moved by it.
Yes, there's actually a stone stele at Tapasa dedicated to him.
Oh, right. And it's inscribed with his words, which are just beautiful. He wrote, "I understand here what is called glory, the right to love without measure."
That quote really captures the enduring emotional resonance of these sites. They aren't simply dead stones. They've actively inspired generations of thinkers and artists.
And the architecture itself often reveals a deeply human, everyday reality. It's not all grand temples.
Consider Jamila. It's a Roman colony integrated directly into the rugged mountains of northern Algeria.
The museum there houses staggering mosaics depicting everything from Bacchus, the god of wine.
To humble working donkeys.
Yeah, donkeys. But the best part is that it also features a fully reconstructed ancient Roman lavatory.
Complete with the original stone seating.
Exactly. It just strips away the mythic grandeur of the empire and reminds you that these were functioning communities. Real people live there.
Moving forward chronologically, that sense of a functioning, layered community is even more pronounced when you look at the Islamic and Ottoman architecture.
The Casbah of Algiers is the prime example here.
This is the historic heart of the capital. It's a labyrinth of narrow, winding streets and whitewashed houses that dates back to the 10th century.
Built by a Berber prince over older Phoenician ruins, right?
Yes. But the Casbah is also defined by its intense modern history. You have grand, Ottoman-era palaces like Dar Hassan Pasha standing in the exact same neighborhood as the Ali Lapointe Museum.
And that museum serves as a poignant memorial to the grueling urban conflict that led to the end of French colonial rule.
The Kasbah forces you to confront the continuity of history. The triumphs and the traumas are built into the same walls.
You see a similar traumatic presence in Constantine, too, which is known as the City of Bridges.
The geography completely dictates that city's character.
It is suspended over a plunging gorge carved by the Rumal River.
And you have these bridges, some with roots all the way back in the Roman era, spanning the chasm to connect the urban spaces.
The Algerian writer Malek Haddad described its imposing nature perfectly. He wrote, "You do not introduce Constantine. She introduces herself, and you salute her."
You salute her. I love that. The urban architecture really does command your attention.
It does. But the academic research pushes us to look south, deep into the Sahara, to understand the full scope of this heritage.
The desert essentially functions as a vast open-air archive. In southeastern Algeria, you have the Tesli Niger Plateau,
which stretches across nearly 72,000 square kilometers.
And hidden within its rock faces are thousands of petroglyphs and paintings. Some of them date back 10,000 years.
10,000 years, just let that sink in. And this isn't just ancient artistic expression.
No, it serves as a critical ecological record.
Right, because the rock art depicts hunting scenes and massive animal herds.
Visually chronicling the region's dramatic climatic shift from a lush, fertile savanna into the arid desert environment we recognize today.
That environmental record is invaluable. And it really highlights how human settlements adapt to extreme change.
We see another fascinating form of adaptation in the town of Knadsa. It serves as a real microcosm of Algerian history.
Tell them about Knadsa. It's such a unique case study.
Well, Knadsa is a traditional Saharan fortress village, or SAR, and for centuries, its identity was primarily spiritual.
It housed powerful zawiyas, right?
Yes, Islamic religious schools and brotherhoods. It served as a major destination for pious visits and pilgrimages.
But then the 20th century happens.
Exactly. The discovery of coal violently shifted its trajectory, transforming this quiet spiritual center into a modern industrial mining hub.
And that layering of history in Knadsa isn't just a thing of the past. It totally defines their present.
Today, the town presents an incredible visual contradiction.
You have ancient, towering minarets sitting right alongside mountains of coal residue, old mining galleries, and an abandoned railway station.
And rather than choosing one identity over the other, the town is actively conserving both its spiritual and industrial heritage to attract a more nuanced form of tourism.
It's a deliberate choice to embrace a complex, dual heritage.
And that same complex layering you see in the architecture of Knadsa is deeply embedded in the living culture of Algeria.
So moving from the stone and sand to the living culture. The tangible history completely informs the intangible culture.
You can perceive this immediately through the senses, particularly in the cuisine.
Let's talk about the food, because it is sensory and it is foundational. Steamed couscous and rich tagines.
Heavily seasoned with ras el hanout.
Yes, that complex spice blend. It often features fenugreek, turmeric, cardamom, clove, and cinnamon.
It's a staple across North Africa, but it takes on distinct regional profiles in Algeria.
And the preparation of food and drink is intrinsically linked to community values, like the Tuareg people in the Sahara.
They maintain elaborate, time-honored mint tea rituals. The act of preparing and serving the tea is an art form itself.
It functions as a vital symbol of hospitality and social cohesion. Guide Algeria actually emphasizes that this integration of art and daily survival extends directly into the local crafts, too.
Right, purchasing traditional items is a way of engaging with a living, rural economy.
Yes, the economic implications of these crafts are really significant.
When you look at the Tuareg silversmiths in places like Tamanrasset, they are forging raw silver into intricate, symbolic pieces.
Like the Agadez cross, which features specific protective motifs.
And in the Mzab Valley, particularly in Gardea, Mozabite women weave highly complex carpets on hand looms.
These carpets utilize warm tones and geometric patterns to symbolize elements of Saharan life.
By sustaining these crafts, you are directly supporting women's cooperatives and ensuring that these intangible skills survive economic modernization.
That theme of survival and adaptation is perhaps most vibrant in Algeria's musical history. The sheer diversity of the soundscape is phenomenal.
And much of it was forged in underground or marginalized communities. Rai music is a perfect example.
Originating in the early 1900s around the western coastal region of Oran. And the word Rai literally translates to shepherd, right?
It does. It began as the music of rural shepherds and traditional Bedouins.
But it rapidly absorbed the diverse influences around it, fusing Spanish, French, African, and Arabic musical forms.
The social trajectory of Ra is what makes it so compelling. It was the music of the working class.
Characterized by raw, opinionated lyrics about everyday struggles and social taboos.
Because of this, it faced intense pushback from both Islamic and government authorities in the post-independence era. It was marginalized as rebellious underground music.
Yet by the 1980s, its popularity just could not be contained, particularly as it gained a massive following in France.
Artists like Cheka Ramiti, who is considered an iconic pioneer of the genre, and later Cheb Khaled championed Rai.
Until it transformed from a suppressed regional sound into a globally recognized symbol of Algerian identity.
But Rai isn't the only genre to emerge from the shadows. Chabi, which translates to folk in Algerian Arabic, has a similarly fascinating origin story.
This one is wild. The folklore sources note that Chabi initially developed in the Mankachat.
Hidden underground cannabis dens.
Exactly, where listeners would gather to drink coffee and hear a raw, vocal tradition inspired by Arab and Berber Andalusian music.
It took the dedication of a musician named El-Hajj Mohammed El Anka to formalize the genre and bring it into the light.
El Anka's contribution was completely transformative. He took Chabi from those hidden dens and elevated it.
Performing at weddings and religious festivals, earning the title of the father of Chabi.
His dedication to the sound even led him to collaborate with a luthier named Bolido in the 1930s.
To invent a brand new instrument specifically suited for the music.
They created the mandol. It's an 8 to 12 stringed instrument resembling an oud, which permanently defined the signature sound of Algerian Chabi.
The innovation in the music scene is matched by the preservation of deeply ancient sounds in the South, too.
In the Southwest, you find Nawa music.
A repertoire of ancient African Islamic spiritual songs and rhythms.
This is traditionally performed during a Laila, an immersive communal night of celebration and healing, guided by a master musician.
Meanwhile, the Tuareg people play the imzad.
This single-stringed bowed instrument carries a unique cultural weight because it is played almost exclusively by women.
Often during social events like camel and horse races, while the men accompany them with sung poetry.
It's beautiful, and this deep well of cultural expression became a crucial weapon during and after the colonial period, particularly in the visual arts.
Algerian artists recognized the need to actively dismantle European Orientalism,
which was the pervasive tendency of Western artists to depict North Africans through an exotic, stereotyped, and passive lens.
Right. So in the 1960s, a vital movement emerged known as the Painters of the Sign.
This group, which included a collective called Osham, meaning tattoo, made a deliberate choice to reject imported European artistic styles.
Instead, they merged abstract modernism with the ancient, popular signs and symbols found in traditional weaving, pottery, and the 10,000-year-old cave art of the Tassili Plateau.
They utilized the profound depth of their own history to reclaim their modern narrative.
You see a different but equally powerful defiance in the work of Baya.
As a doubly orphaned teenager in the 1940s, she began painting intensely vibrant, colorful watercolors that challenged traditional figures of the mother.
Her work was categorized as naive art, but its brilliance was undeniable.
It eventually stunned the European art world and captivated André Breton, the founder of Surrealism.
Baya's work, much like the music of El Anka or the rock art of Tassili, demonstrates a culture that insists on defining itself.
And that insistence brings us right to the present day. If you look at Algeria in 2026 through the lens of our modern sources, you see a society that is not simply resting on its historical laurels.
It is incredibly active. In Algiers, open-air cinemas operate on rooftops, screening local and international films.
In Constantine, the annual Dima Jazz Festival brings global jazz musicians together to fuse their sound with local Chabi and Nawa artists.
The everyday social fabric is equally dynamic, heavily rooted in the cafe culture.
In cities like Annaba, the cafe functions as the original social network.
You find traditional establishments where older generations spend hours debating politics over backgammon and strong coffee.
Existing right alongside modern coffee shops where university students dissect art, philosophy, and global trends.
It is a thriving analog social life.
But running parallel to this is a massive, urgent race happening behind the scenes. And this is where the academic paper on heritage digitization becomes crucial to our deep dive.
The research details a very deliberate and massive push to digitize Algeria's cultural heritage.
And the urgency stems from a desire for cultural sovereignty.
Because in an increasingly interconnected world, there is a distinct risk that dominant global tech powers will index and define Algerian culture through a narrow, westernized, and purely economic lens.
By taking control of the digitization of their own tangible and intangible heritage, Algeria is ensuring their digital footprint is rooted in their own historical principles.
They are preemptively securing their narrative in the digital age.
The paper outlines several mechanisms for this, starting with what they call preventive digitization of physical sites.
A striking example occurred in 2015 when an archaeologist named Farid Ihil Arez conducted a comprehensive three-dimensional photographic survey
of the funerary monument of Queen Tinhinan in Tamanrasset.
She is a deeply revered figure, recognized as the legendary ancestral queen of the Tuareg people.
By rendering a flawless, high-resolution 3D digital model of her monument, researchers have basically created an insurance policy.
If the physical site is ever degraded by environmental shifts or human interference, the digital model ensures it can be studied or even perfectly restored.
This meticulous approach extends to their fragile paper archives as well. The National Center for Manuscripts in Adrar has already digitized 1,800 ancient degrading texts.
In Kanadza, that town that bridges the spiritual zawiyas and the coal mines, the Kazana El Kandusia Eziania Library contains over 200 centuries-old manuscripts,
which are being scanned page by page to halt their physical decay.
Scanning a manuscript or mapping a stone monument is a straightforward, albeit technically complex, process.
But the researchers highlight a much more profound challenge. How do you digitize the intangible?
How do you encode an oral tradition or a community value into a database?
This is where the work becomes deeply philosophical. The researchers argue that digitizing oral literature, myths, folktales, and proverbs is critical.
Because these spoken words carry the ethical framework of the society.
They cite a traditional Algerian proverb: "The neighbor comes before the house."
On the surface, it is a simple phrase, but it encapsulates a complex social code prioritizing community, mutual care, and ethical living over material wealth.
When researchers record an elder speaking that proverb in Algerian Arabic or Amaze and translate that voice into binary code, they are doing much more than saving an audio file.
They are actively working to ensure that the ethical and social foundations of Algerian life survive the homogenization of the modern internet.
They are leveraging sophisticated database initiatives and AI tools designed to recognize and include local dialects,
ensuring that future generations have digital access to the moral compass of their ancestors.
It is a monumental undertaking to map an ancient ethos onto digital infrastructure, and it perfectly encapsulates the journey we have taken today.
We began by examining the quiet endurance of Roman ruins at Timgad and Jamila and the layered urban histories of the Kasbah and Constantine.
We analyzed the 10,000-year-old climate warnings carved into the Tassili Plateau and the dual spiritual and industrial identity of Kanadza.
We looked at how that history informs the present, from the complex spices of Ras El Hanout to the economic importance of Tuareg silver and Mozabite weaving.
We traced the rebellious, fusion-driven evolution of Rai and the underground birth of Chavi, alongside the spiritual endurance of Nawa and Imzad music.
We saw how the painters of the Sinanbaya defied colonial narratives through vibrant art.
And finally, we unpacked the deliberate sovereign strategy of digitizing this vast heritage. From 3D scanning desert queens to preserving the simple wisdom of prioritizing your neighbor,
Algeria is refusing to let its history be overwritten by time or by external digital forces.
it really is.
But before we conclude, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to consider, one that builds on this intersection of the ancient and the digital.
Let's hear it.
We have explored how Algeria is rushing to digitize its heritage to protect it from Western homogenization. But as artificial intelligence models inevitably begin training on these newly uploaded 3D monuments, scanned ancient texts, and digitized oral histories, we must ask who ultimately owns the resulting digital culture.
That's a big question.
If an AI hosted on foreign servers generates a new piece of Nawa music or a new tapestry design based on these painstakingly preserved archives, does that output belong to the Algerian people whose ancestors forged the culture? Or does it belong to the tech companies controlling the algorithms? It is a new frontier of cultural sovereignty that goes far beyond simply saving a file.
That is a profound question regarding the future of digital ownership and heritage. Who owns the culture once the algorithm learns it? Something for you to deeply consider as you reflect on the material. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and explore this deep dive into Algeria today. We hope this unhurried journey brought you new perspectives. We encourage you to keep questioning and exploring. Until next time, take care and goodbye.